I don't have a lot of Nintendo stuff, right? I mean, well, at the moment I actually don't really have anything from Nintendo. But I used to have a Wii and a DS at one point, and I did borrow a couple of Nintendo systems at some point, from friends or whatever. And I mean, it was fun, especially like back in the day, like with NES or what we used to call it in South Africa, like Golden China, like TV games. Um, those are really fun and everything. But I guess as I grew older and I got more into gaming and more into PC gaming, and then eventually um, console gaming more and more. And uh, I guess one thing that I guess these days, like I don't really like Nintendo stuff anymore, and I'm not really sure why. And I see a lot of people always are super excited about the Nintendo Directs and Switch releases, and Mario this and Zelda that, um, and I don't know, it just doesn't really appeal to me at all. And I'm kind of envious of these people that they love this ecosystem and the company and everything so much that they like it's Nintendo, it's the classic, it's the it's what gaming's all about and that kind of stuff. And I guess I just don't really get it. um, I guess in a lot of ways you can analyze it from different perspectives, right? So I think let's start with like the hardware systems. So obviously back in the day, like I said, like NES was cool, and Super NES, and um, I don't think we had the GameCube in South Africa, but it was very limited. It wasn't very well known. It was much more about like the PlayStation 2 and stuff. So I didn't really experience the GameCube. I don't know, maybe that's one of the reasons why. So we also didn't get the Nintendo 64 in South Africa, as far as I'm aware. You can get them now in odd places like secondhand, but we never really had the Nintendo 64. So Nintendo didn't have a very big, besides like the old TV game stuff, they didn't have a very big presence in South Africa. Um, but regardless of that, I mean, I've played like Mario games and stuff like that, and we had the Wii, and that was quite successful here. Um, but if I look at the hardware systems, like I said, my experience is limited, and those are pretty good systems, but generally they seem to be a little bit underpowered, especially if I take like the Wii. I mean, especially with regards to like third-party games and stuff that I, tend to favor. Um, you're always getting an inferior experience on a Nintendo system because the graphics or whatever hardware capabilities weren't as good as, let's say, Sony or Microsoft's offerings. Um, so that was obviously disappointing. They always think, with the Wii, they had an interesting control scheme, which was cool. Like it was very well done. I just never really wanted to play on the Wii for more than like an hour or so. I mean, I like to lay down on my couch and just, play some games and have a good time. I don't want to be flailing my arms around and potentially throwing things through my television or, you get tired, basically. And it wasn't super accurate. It was kind of annoying to use sometimes. Um, so the Wii, I didn't. It was kind of fun as a party gimmicky thing, with a girlfriend or a friend or whatever, just messing around with stuff. Um, but yeah, the systems in general, like the Switch now, for example. Oh wait, okay. So from the Wii U, I mean, I borrowed a Wii U from a friend. It was kind of an interesting concept, but again, it was so underpowered, and there weren't a lot of third-party games available on it. So I just weren't very interested in it. So then the Switch. The thing is with the Switch is it is primarily a handheld console, and I'm just not into handheld consoles. I mean, I had a PSP and a DS, like I said, and I just realized that I ended up never really playing very much of them. Just like maybe over holidays or something when I'm like having a holiday at the beach or whatever, I might take it with me and have some fun with it. But it wasn't, I want to avoid saying the word a serious gaming device, but yeah, I never really played through an entire game on those systems, like never. Because I just didn't want to invest the amount of time, or I didn't have the amount of time to invest in it. You know, when I was at home, or when I had access to a proper console or a computer or whatever, I much rather just play on those because it's just more convenient, and you know, a better experience because of graphics or screen size or whatever the case may be. So, and the same thing still goes now for like handhelds and stuff. I just don't really ever really have the time to play one. Like, I don't have a need for a handheld system because I am most of the time I'm either visiting someone or I'm out doing shopping or whatever. I don't have time to game then. Otherwise, I'm at work. I don't have time to game, or I am at home. So I'd rather than just play on like my Xbox or PC or something, right? So I don't have like a long commute or something where I'm gonna be playing games, or I'm gonna, you know, have a friend who also has a Switch and I take it over to him and we have some fun or whatever. That's not a situation that I find myself in at all. Um, so I think that's why the Switch never really appealed to me. It's a nifty gadget. It's very cool. It's very well done. Exactly. It's very nice. But again, like the third-party games on there are just inferior quality ports, essentially, which is disappointing. And I don't have a particular charm of having a certain game, you know, as a portable handheld now. It's like, whatever. Like, you know. So that's kind of it for the systems. I don't really get it. Plus, oh, the other thing that I forgot to mention, the Nintendo Switch here in South Africa is bloody expensive. I mean, okay, they're kind of discontinued now, but you would pay more for a Nintendo Switch than you would pay for an Xbox One X. Right now, a Nintendo Switch costs you more than an Xbox Series S. So it's really expensive here, and it's just not really worth it. I think it's more expensive than the PlayStation 4 Pro and everything. I don't know why it's so expensive here, and it's really annoying. So that's also one of the reasons why people like myself, at least, or why I'm reluctant to buy those systems, because they're so expensive. And I don't want to buy the Switch Lite because that's handheld only, so I have no need for that whatsoever. The second part of this whole thing, and analyzing why I'm not particularly fond of Nintendo stuff, is the games, obviously, that they make. So we're talking about Zelda, we're talking about Mario, we're talking about Metroid, I believe, that kind of stuff that they make or publish or whatever. And to me, in my opinion, right, like their games and the characters that they have and the game series that they have are very much targeted towards children. They're very family friendly type stuff. They're very quirky and weird, and in a lot of ways very disconnected from reality. You know what I mean? It's hard to find something in real life to connect to it, to make it some kind of a connected feeling to play that game. You know what I mean by that is, if you play something like Call of Duty Modern Warfare, you know, there's a lot of based off of realism. Even though it's an arcade game, it kind of looks real, right? And it's based off of real life tactics and situations, and you know, you can kind of connect it to reality. You know, there's an AK-47 and there's an AK-47 in real life, and you can kind of get the idea of what it's like to fire an AK-47. Or you play a driving game, even like Need for Speed, where it's a complete simulation. It's a complete arcade experience, but you know, you in your mind you get to drive like a Ferrari, you know, whatever. Like if what are these Ferraris anyway? Damn, F48 or whatever the case is. Um, so you still have that connection to reality, and even a lot of other games, you know, it just, like Rayman, for example, right? That is also cartoony and kind of kiddie-like, but it has a little bit of an edge to it, and it has popular songs sort of mixed into it, and it's basically like a cartoon that you're watching, so you kind of connect it to those Sunday morning kind of cartoons. Where in the Nintendo games like Mario and Zelda and that stuff, it's completely their own thing. It's not like a cartoon. It's not connected to reality. It's their complete own thing, kind of like how Pokemon is. And I just have a hard time connecting with it and actually liking the designs that they come up with. Like Mario as a character to me is really boring. Like he always pretty much just looks the same. He has zero personality. He's just, you know, this character that doesn't really he doesn't really have a real history or anything like that, as far as I can tell, at least. Um, and in terms of gameplay and stuff, like the Nintendo games are highly polished. They're very well put together, but they're not the kinds of games that I would want to play. Like a Mario side scroller or something. I don't like side scrollers. I don't really play them. You know, like Zelda Breath of the Wild or whatever looks pretty. I'm sure it's highly polished and people really enjoy it, but I don't like the kind of durability system that they have. I don't find the characters or the art style particularly interesting. Um, but that's just me, I guess. The same goes for like Metroid, which I played Metroid Prime, I believe it was, on the Wii. Was that Metroid Prime 3 or something? I can't remember. But it was such a forgettable experience because it felt like such a generic arcade FPS game that pretty much any other AAA FPS experience at that time was to me a better experience. So I didn't get it. And a lot of these other characters and games and stuff like that they have, and like what is it, Yoshi and Kirby, and is that even Nintendo? I'm not even sure, but none of those things appeal to me. I wouldn't say like it's I want hardcore games or anything, because I don't, because I like stupid games. I like um, even like certain crappy games, like not good games have a certain appeal to them that make them either funny or interesting or have something good about them, where the Nintendo games to me are not interesting. I can't connect them to reality, and they're not exactly, I wouldn't say they're not fun, they're just not a game that I want to sit down and play for 3 or 4 or 5 hours. I would play it for like 15 minutes, maybe half an hour, and then I'll be like, okay, cool, I've had my fill of this. Um, so like this Wrecking Crew, that's just my gameplay, and it was fun for a little while, but this is not a game that I would want to play over and over and over again. I know it's a really old game, it's not a good example, but it's kind of the only Nintendo gameplay that I can really show. And I think Nintendo as a company is also a little bit questionable in terms of like they've really been hard on third-party game developers and publishers, especially in the past with like censorship stuff and everything, and like giving YouTuber content creators a hard time about making video content on their games and forbidding it, and they just there are people who make that have like fan creations that they make out of Mario games or whatever, and Nintendo just sues the crap out of them. And it's just like, why do you do that? Why do you go after your fans? I mean, I know you want to protect copyright and all that, but sometimes it's not really hurting anyone, and they just need to relax a little bit. It's like they just, they're so tight-fisted about their stuff, and maybe that's one of the reasons why they're so successful, but I just feel like it's not very consumer friendly at the end of the day, and it just makes them look bad. And for me, I don't know, I don't really like Nintendo stuff, and I really wish I could. That's the point of this video. I wish I could have that passion and that interest in that. Like, I wish I was that psyched about, like Mario games and stuff, because it would have been like so cool to just know that, oh, okay, there's this game series and it's Nintendo making it. They always make good and polished stuff, and it's just gonna be amazing when it gets released, and I'm just envious of that. Anyway, this is just my opinion, guys. So just relax.